Hello, everyone, and my name is Dr. Evan Torner, and today I'm going to talk to you in this lightning talk about film and literature instruction through live action role play. So let's get into it. Cognition is embodied, right? The same could also be said for the acts of reading literature, watching a film, playing a game. No matter how seamless our connection feels with a piece of media, our bodies and our physical processes respond to it in real time as well. Our hearts race when a fictional character's life stands on the line. Our muscles stretch and contract as we wind down from a film. Our bladders remind us of their contents right before we reach the next video game boss, causing us to pause. One might say that there is no reality beyond that which our bodies and physical senses can confirm. That's Donald Hoffman. Why then might we not make full use of our bodies to respond to film and literature, since they're already in play anyway? So this lightning talk focuses on the use of embodied fiction or live action role play, now referred to as LARP, to adapt and teach film and literature, especially at the college level, but high school is fine too. Given that literature and film are not quite as central to society as they once were, during times dominated by white, Western, educated bourgeois figures, the act of physically enacting characters in a classroom grants students access to unique perspectives on characters' motivations and decision trees from fiction, as well as what might be described as the system of a particular narrative work. It is pedagogically powerful then to ask students to embody and feel the emotions of characters in the media being taught before they even read or watch them. This is a photo from the Monitor Celestra, a Battlestar Galactica adaptation LARP on a real Swedish destroyer. And just again, to define LARP for those who need it, we're using the definition: meeting between people who, through their characters, relate to each other in a fictional world. Or like theatrical pieces, but without audiences and scripts, make-believe for adults. Now, LARP is not new, right? We can say that LARP to some degree predates theater, though I'm not going to get into that today. But we can definitely say that since the Cold War, live action simulations have been used to model situations from classroom discrimination to nuclear warfare. Language and literature scenarios in the classroom actually date back to the 1950s. So this is not anything new that I'm really introducing here. But in the late 1970s and early 1980s, it's with the communities around the world that transformed such simulation and adult pretend play into what we now see as the recreational medium of LARP. So the pedagogical and simulation uses of LARP, the LARP medium, predate their use for entertainment. But the cool thing and the revolutionary thing in the last 10 or 15 years has been when the design innovations from the entertainment sphere are coming full circle back to the classroom now in this form of edu-larp. I'm energized and I'm very excited by this new phase of simulation development. So edu-larp builds off this premise that pretend play is just a natural part of childhood, as well as part of our innate capacity to learn. And this pretend play usefully translates the ambiguity of social situations and psychological intention into legible symbols, right? And actionable tasks in a quote unquote quarantined fictional world. Now, in the humanities in the United States, the most prominent brand of sort of educational simulation is the so-called reacting games, or reacting to the past, created as a program with Mark C. Carnes and other collaborators. And the reacting to the past framework generally keeps students at sort of emotional arm's length from the material. But you have, for example, the popular trial of Galileo scenario, allowing students to inhabit roles of 17th century figures, debating about whether or not Galileo's revolutionary scientific work should be published at all, and whether Galileo should be punished. These are very much sort of speech and debate kind of games. Now, the Reacting to the Past framework has a whole line of publications, seminars, and rubrics all dedicated to high-quality historical simulation in the classroom. And nevertheless, we might seek alternatives, especially given that such games demand from both teachers and students in terms of cognitive load and willingness to compete. A little bit too much. Reacting games require extensive student reading. They adopt an agonistic model akin to high school debate teams, in which there will be a winner, and do not readily yield their own design framework to students so that it might be understood and hacked. So my own method is to teach film and literature through LARP, using hard-won knowledge from the LARP scene. So for film and literature scenarios, the challenge is always, how do we attend to the text and context? So how does the text come into the game, and how does then the context also inform play in useful and actionable ways? We don't want to data dump on the players. Similarly, we should look at the characters and the agency of said characters, and we should keep the horizon of agency that they had in the text as a strong reference for the final edu-larp product. So they should not be making wild other fanfic level decisions. Also, they should create, when you're creating edu-larp, you should create an experience that neither trivializes the work nor traumatizes the players. I think that goes without saying. Now, we can furthermore take a number of lessons also from Jay Lee and Jason Morningstar's pattern language for LARP design, in which we attend to dimensions such as time. How much time does each element of the design occupy? Space. Where will it be run, and how does it affect light, movement, sound, and social cues? Player energy. How exhausted are the players going to be? Memory. What are the different ongoing facts and decisions a player must keep track of? Conversation dyads and triads. How do we ensure more productive player groupings of 2 or 3 rather than this natural tendency to gather and talk in a big circle? So when I'm talking about designing edu-larp, I'm talking about those specific design concerns reflecting on the source material. Now, the rest of my time I'll spend with 2 examples. One is the game I created based on Fritz Lang's film Metropolis, 1927 silent film about the industrialist Jo Fredersen, who sows chaos in his own city by creating a malicious robot double of an inspirational religious figure, Maria. Now, the LARP version of this actually follows directly the act structure of Metropolis. So we begin with the overture, then the intermezzo, then the furioso, and there's even plot points directly from Metropolis in the game. But the ending is left open, and frequently the players will form some sort of Marxist revolution. So there's a way in which the energy of the game produces a different kind of agency, and I've expressly talked about that. I also use the game to model expressionist theater, expressionist acting, when there's some sort of passion or outside force that's forcing you to act a certain way. And that is included in a mechanic called the passion list, where you're going down various passions that your character has without a lot of control over them, and then a city that exerts pressure on you to behave a certain way that's modeled by the other players who are not in the scene. Another game that's really effective at teaching literature is the Romeo and Juliet LARP. There we go. Romeo and Juliet LARP is actually an edu-larp created by Bjarke Peterson that works its magic by having players replay versions of Act 1, Scene 5, the masquerade ball at the Capulet Mansion, when Romeo meets Juliet in person. And the game's relationship in time differs markedly from Metropolis, which follows the sort of structure of the movie and plays out about a movie's worth of time. This actually condenses all of the play into this one sort of microcosm scene. And I really appreciate how they find that no element of this particular drama is accidental. Everything collapses like a Jenga tower, as the creators say, if one piece is removed. So students ideally will play these LARPs, then they'll read or watch the media from which it's adapted, and then perhaps they'll write their own live action games in response to both play and viewing experiences. As I've stated elsewhere, They're going to respond to a game with another game, which also encourages the kind of interpretation that we want them to practice in the film and literature classroom. And with that, thank you very much. And probably the most important, here is the list of works cited in this talk. Thank you.